Hey, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Footprint Data Drive. Today we're on episode 17, and we're going to talk about data and security. And I'm with a great guest, a security expert and social trends expert. He's also the founder of Network Spotlight. .io, and I'm joined with Mikhail. Mikhail, I'll pass the mic over to you, and let's hear a little bit of introduction about yourself and what you've been getting up to.
Yeah, thanks so much for the warm intro there, Alex. And always a pleasure to chat with you. Yeah, so my name is Mikhail. I help to connect and secure Web3. I do that through different initiatives. The first one, as you mentioned, I'm the founder of Network Spotlight, which is a community of builders, ecosystem heads, and VCs that are essentially pioneering this amazing Web3 industry. And then, secondly, I also work for one of the largest Web3 security firms. And so I spearhead a lot of the BD initiatives there. And it gives me first row seats into what the overall security landscape looks like. I have uh, an amazing opportunity to connect with so many different projects and different people that are building amazing stuff in the space. And that gives me the opportunity to build the amazing network that I've been able to build. So the credit goes to all of the amazing people in it, including yourself. So certainly appreciate you being part of that. Alex, you there?
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I muted my mic. I was talking. I was just gonna say, on behalf of Footprint, we appreciate you as well. Always coming into our Twitter Spaces, leaving our listeners with a lot of alpha to, learn, or just a lot of alpha to kind of leave the call with and be a bit more informed in any pretty much anything at Web3. I think you're really well versed. So, kind of going on the topic of data security, Mikhail, just based on your experience, how is the current consensus of Web3 security, right? What industries would you consider falling a little bit behind on the security aspect sort of things?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Yeah, I think we've given the recent turn of events. One can argue that DeFi seems to be you know kind of slipping these days. You had the Curve incident, which was about 65 million, and then you had the bald meme coin, and then of course Elite Swap. So both of those being on the base chain, which is essentially optimism. But whenever you have new chains like this, and there's a lot of buzz around new chains, you tend to go through this period of a lot of projects that were rug pull. Now, in the case of Elite Swap, that's not necessarily the case, but there's usually whenever there's a lot of attention, sometimes the bad guys like to hang out there as well. But somebody else can also argue that gaming is still a little bit behind. There's a lot of challenges in both of these areas. So on one hand, on the DeFi side, the biggest issue right now is product market fit, and there's a lot of research that needs to go into finding the right user for the product. And by the time project finds out what that is, they've ran out of runway. And that is the biggest problem that I'm seeing when I'm talking to projects, when I'm trying to help them on the security side. They may not have the funding for an audit because they've spent it all on trying to figure out the perfect market fit, and that seems to be a big problem there. And then on the gaming side, it's usually retaining these users. So you can acquire them, but the crypto mindset is, okay, I'm going to play this game, I'm going to make this money. And then once I do, I'm off to the next one. So they're not necessarily playing because it's fun. They're playing because they want to make the money. And
Right.
that's the narrative that right now people are trying to change. And I'm seeing a lot of great games pop up. So I think the future is bright, but both of those verticals right now definitely have their challenges and their work cut out for them.
Yeah, I was looking at the BioSyn uh, H1 security report for 2023, and although the amount of money that has been hacked now, remember, guys, this doesn't include the most recent hacks by Curve, but but it includes the majority of the top 108 biggest ones. And do you guys know, really crazy, is about 49% of these protocols um, that got or that were attacked maliciously, had a malicious attack, whether it be whatever option it be, was 49% were previously not audited. So, Mikhail, I really I think you really hit the nail on the head there. Like finding or getting that product fit, right, that market fit, and spending all this money doing so, it really does not leave a lot for things like audits, right? And I think arguably, especially in DeFi, where 65% of these attacks happened, by the way, guys, crazy. But I really think it is something that's so imperative that DeFi really needs to kind of step up a bit on, especially not just one audit, but regular audits. You guys, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. I'm always slamming regular audits, but I think it's super important. Anyways, Mikhail, we're talking on the same kind of thoughts of DeFi and security. What's your thoughts on it, right? And like I say, or you're saying too, I really think kind of DeFi will lack the growth of other industries in the next bull run until security is really up to par.
My perception of security has been gradually transforming, Alex. I'll say that I think that we need to change what we call an audit. Right? Whenever you think about an audit, you think about some kind of government body orchestrating some type of a team of auditors that go out and do their due diligence and check off that to make sure that they are holding up to specific standards, right? So you walk to a restaurant, you might run into a health inspector, and that's an audit. In cybersecurity, or at least Web3 cybersecurity, it doesn't work that way. You so are we using the word audit, but maybe we should consider redefining what an audit is. Essentially, it's just a review, right? And I think this would help the community members to understand that whenever a project goes through a quote unquote audit, all it is just saying, hey, this is the current state, right? It's not like the security firm is going to hold the project to specific standards. I mean, it has certain standards that it needs to meet. And if it doesn't, it'll say, hey, this is a finding and that is a finding. But those findings are still there. It's up to the project to actually implement those changes. And
Right.
so I think we need to consider, what we call an audit and maybe call it a security review and spend more time educating the community about the things they need to look for in order to interact with different protocols. Otherwise, we're going to run into a situation, and this is already happening, more regulation is coming. And the
Mm.
reason why is because there's a lot of people not educated on this topic. And to be honest, I mean, even if they were, there are certain things you can't control, but it would at least limit how much is actually happening in the space in terms of exploits and hacks. And so we either need to educate the community or more government bodies would be involved.
Right, and I think it's kind of interesting that you bring this up as well, right? Just because there is a security review or an audit, right? Doesn't mean that the protocol is going to go and immediately fix these found issues. Now, I wonder how much of a slippery slope it is to really, being like, okay, well, we've done the audit, we found these possible, exploits, but we're not going to give you the official audit stamp of approval until it's fixed. I wonder, is that too much of a slippery slope for security companies to kind of put onto these protocols?
I think you touched on something important. You said stamp of approval, and I think that is one of the biggest challenges that a lot of auditing firms have is that the community members believe it to be a stamp of approval.
Right.
And That's not the case. Now, if let's say the government gets involved and the government says, "Hey, security firm, you now have to make sure that these projects have all of these boxes checked off. Otherwise, they can't deploy. It will be illegal for them to deploy." I mean, I don't know if that's even realistic, right? This is all blockchain. Like, how can you even
Mm-hmm.
control that, regulate that? But if there was a way to do that, and I'm not saying I'm a proponent for this, but then maybe we can shift it more to like, okay, this is more of a stamp of approval, right? The same way a health inspector would walk into a restaurant and say, "Hey, you passed this review based on this government body that's saying you need to uphold to these specific health inspection rules. You passed." We don't have that. All cybersecurity companies right now in Web3, they're all private companies, and the only thing that they have going for them right now is the reputation, and reputation is huge in this space.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
there is no authority above them saying, "Hey, you need to make sure that these projects hold to these specific standards." So we're not there yet. It's probably eventually going to come, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
people lack the education, and so when they lack the education, you have to start putting on some safety wheels.
I 100% agree, and I think that is a great distinction and a great thing for all the listeners here today to kind of take away from this, that just because an audit's been done doesn't mean that that's got the seal of approval, right? The stamp of approval, right? It's an audit, right? And there's nobody there right now to enforce and make sure that anything that gets found in an audit is fixed before deployment or anything like that, right? So it always, I think that's a great piece for everybody to kind of take away from this. Now, kind of going over to the third point, Mikhail. According to the BioSyn security report that I mentioned earlier, even though the total losses for H1 is down compared to both halves of last year, um, phishing and rug pull scams are on the rise, very heavily so. Besides the obvious of never giving out your private keys, what are some other great tips do you kind of have for our listeners to keep themselves secure? And kind of while we're at it as well, what kind of new types of these phishing scams are you seeing right now that it's kind of got people thrown for a loop?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So, from the perspective of protecting yourself, always do your due diligence, do your homework. Working for a security firm, the very first thing that comes to mind is make sure that the project has been audited, and not just audited, but check what actually has been audited. Are the smart contracts that you are interacting with, have they been audited? Because sometimes what happens is when a project gets audited, not everything is within the scope. They may only audit certain portions because maybe they lack the budget and they want that quote unquote stamp of approval that we just talked about. So you have to be very careful. You have to do your research to make sure that you're treading carefully, cautiously, and so make sure that you're looking at the audit report. There's a lot of very reputable auditing firms out there. If you don't know which ones they are, I recommend maybe Googling it or just finding it online. And make sure that whatever you're interacting with, that is secure. Also, the other part that is becoming more and more imperative is the KYC. So a lot of these projects, they have centralization risks, and that's not something that a lot of them can fully get away from. What centralization risks are, it's basically where they have certain privileges that they cannot renounce or they choose not to renounce. So they can do something malicious if they wanted to. The question becomes, do they have any malicious intent? And that's the part we don't really know unless they KYC. And the same way you would KYC as a user, you go to your bank and they ask you for all your information. The project can also KYC with that security firm. I don't know if every security firm does that. I know ours does, but there are also third-party KYC providers that can do it. Now, they're all a little different. This is probably more for the projects that you want to make sure that you use a reputable one, because some you can just upload your ID, and there's ways to manipulate that. It's not very reputable. So as a user, as an investor, you should probably keep those things in mind as well, that there are different levels of reputation when it comes to KYC. But check to see if the team has been KYC, because if it has, that should give you a little bit more reassurance that despite the fact that they have some centralization risks, most likely, and look, don't hold me to this because we've seen crazy things before, but the likelihood of them attempting anything malicious is less, because they understand that somebody else has access to their information, and if they were to try something malicious, then that information would get reported to the government authorities.
Right, and
So that,
I think, sorry to
yeah,
interrupt, but last thing you want to do
no,
is put your name on a scam, right? That's like, I think scamming 101 is definitely don't put your name on it, or if you do, it's got to be pretty well orchestrated. Anyways,
right.
Mikhail, sorry, you can continue.
Yeah, so that's what I would say to investors out there that are you know needing to do their research. To answer your second question about phishing scams, I don't do a lot of research on this topic, but I will say there's one specific one that we're starting to see pop up more often, which is modal phasing in wallets, and that's basically where the attackers will send crafted messages to the mobile wallets, and what they'll do is they'll impersonate legitimate DApps, trick users into approving transactions with misleading information. So,
Mm,
whenever you are approving transactions, I think it goes without saying, you should always make sure to verify, look at it carefully. If you're tired, I actually had this happen to one of my clients. He was planning on making a payment for his audit, and it was getting kind of late, and he made the mistake. He clicked OK, and he's like, "Are you able to confirm the payment?" And I'm like, "We didn't receive it." And it's like, "Okay, what happened?"
oh,
And then realized that he got scammed. So it's very common. A lot of people think, "Okay, this can't really happen to me," but it's very common. Always make sure you're checking off. It's that little box that pops up whenever you're checking off on the transaction, and just make sure that that box, has all the information. It has all the accurate information. Um, so definitely be careful on that with this type of phishing attack.
yeah, I think it's a great rule as well. Never do transactions when you're tired. I
Yes.
also fell for something. This is so funny, you guys. I fell for. I used to have a walk-in guy, a little athlete, and I think I had like $20 worth of tokens, and I fell for a fake Telegram group. You guys, I looked at it after. I couldn't believe. I'm looking at everything I did step by step, filling out the Google form after this. I was like, cannot believe I fell for that. Luckily, I was able to, catch it in time and take my 5 SOL out of my my wallet that the hacker could have had access to. But my steps, my thousands and thousands of steps that I grinded out for that to level up my NFT there, those are for the birds now, guys, down the drain. But yeah, and I fell for it because I was looking at Telegram at 3 in the morning. I woke up checking my notifications, and I fell for it that way. Could not believe it. So yeah, definitely make sure to double check all that information when you're tired. Another one, Mikhail, that I've been seeing too, a lot more recent, and I'm sure you guys have heard about this, but it's where the hackers changed the contract address to the first, say 5 letters of your, or letters and numbers of your wallet address, and then they changed the last 5 as well. So always double check that you're
Mhm.
confirming the transaction of who, or the wallet address that you're sending stuff to as well.
Yeah, that's a good one because, and I've been guilty of this too, right? I get lazy. I don't want to check the full number. I'm like, okay, this looks to be correct. Okay, like no biggie. Let's go ahead and just send it, right? So, that's a very good advice there, Alex.
Yeah, and I kind of want to bring it back a little bit and talk a little bit more about audits. And this question's really just kind of short and simple. It's what's stopping protocols from getting these audits, right? I mentioned the stat about 49% of the 108 victims attacked in the Biosian report haven't been previously audited. And I know you touched on it a little bit with market fit, but is there any really other reasons that are stopping these protocols?
It's mostly the money aspect, honestly. That's the biggest hurdle that I'm seeing, and a big reason for that is because a lot of the VCs are not investing as much. I want to say this year it was like 70% less than the previous year. So it's the current market conditions, that has a lot to do with it. And uh, I like to think positively in that majority of these projects have good intention. They want to make a change. They want to be safe. They're not looking to be affiliated with any kind of scam coins. They just don't necessarily have the money. I talked to a project today. Super excited to talk to me. And, let's talk about this audit. And then once we get into the pricing, and it was a very very small smart contract that he was looking to have audited, but even with that, it was way out of his range, and that's just reality. A lot of these people are, they have their hard earned savings. This is their passion, their life. They do this day and night, and all they want is just to make sure that before they go to market, that it's safe. And that's the challenge of trying to help people like that, because that have the good intentions, and that's a big reason why I've been trying to connect with a lot of VCs, trying to connect capital with innovators. That's more and more, not just on the security side, but more and more. I feel like I'm, just connecting capital and innovators, because that a lot of times helps to speed things up. Now, there are ways around raising capital. A lot of projects may say, look, we don't want to raise, we want to bootstrap, and they have certain services that they may provide. So, like, let's say, for instance, you're building a game, but you also have a SDK that you have the ability to sell. That potentially could be a good business model. And if that does well, you just generated revenue, and now you can afford more development, a security audit, marketing eventually. Um, once the market picks back up. So there are ways to get creative and to get around it, but yeah, I would be sugarcoating it if I said it was really easy. It's not, and that's the biggest challenge right now. So I think the best thing that projects can do is uh, focus on building relationships, and that's a big reason, not to jump ahead into like my community and stuff, but that's a big reason why I created that, because relationships really uh, ignite a lot of the things that you need as a project founder. And you never know who you're going to meet, and a lot of times if you avoid the cookie cutter approach of, here's my pitch deck, take a look at it, let me read off this presentation, do you like it, do you not like it, if you just approach it from a casual perspective, and you just, you know, meet in person, go grab a beer, whatever the case may be, and just have a good time, and just, remember why you got into this space, you'll realize that there's a lot of great opportunities here that could help you propel to the next stage. But yeah, I mean, to your point, that's an interesting statistic that 49% of the 100 eight victims were not previously audited. It makes a lot of sense right now, because of the current market conditions.
Yeah, and before we dive into any more questions, I hope everyone was listening for Mikhail. He just gave you the networking hack, you guys. And that hack is be yourself. All right. When you go to approach people, avoid that cookie cutter approach and just have a good time. And you'll notice how these relationships will start to flourish, and these partnerships will kind of start naturally just coming your way. Now, Before we dive into Network Spotlight, I have kind of one last question regarding the security and the data, and this is on the data side, sort of, or the data side of things, and that is about data breaches. Are we seeing many malicious attacks to go instead of after tokens? Are we actually seeing anything that's going after the data itself, or are these attacks not really worth it due to the transparency and just the whole nature of decentralization in general?
Well, that's just it, Alex. There are a lot of centralized components to Web3 that many people don't realize, and so we did a little bit of research, and there were 74 incidents at centralized Web3 entities that we analyzed, with 23 resulting in long-term high-risk data loss. So breaches is a thing in Web3 as well. It's not just a traditional cybersecurity issue. It very much is an issue in Web3. And the way to avoid that, well, you want to minimize how much interaction you're doing with centralized entities, right? So that's going to be probably your best bet if you're trying to eliminate any kind of risks along those lines. So yeah, you want to try to be as decentralized as possible, and that's tough for a lot of projects. I talk to a lot of them, and the most common vulnerability that pops up is decentralization. They have access to the private keys. They have access to privileges. They don't have the ability to renounce them, or based on their business model, they don't. But
Mm.
there's certain things that can be done to help and make them more decentralized. But it still is the most common vulnerability that we find, because unless you're Bitcoin, you're going to have some certain centralization characteristics, and as long as there are centralization characteristics, you run a higher risk of a breach.
Yeah, it makes 100% sense. You guys, data. I'm kind of shocked that there were so many out of the 73, but the 74 you said firms you guys analyzed. You said 23 had potential long term data breaches. That was way higher than I thought.
Yeah.
So if you're building out there, you guys, that's the alpha. Avoid as much centralization as possible, right? Then, because data breaches are a thing in Web3. Now, skipping all the data and security side of things, okay, I want to hear about Network Spotlight. Give me an intro about what you're doing, and kind of how you're connecting innovators with VCs, or just connecting innovators with the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. This it's interesting because I started this group because being in business development, I wanted a lead generator. It's like this is a way for me to meet new people and potentially make more business. But as I put this group together and this group started to collaborate, it really opened up my eyes and made me realize, okay, there's a lot more here. There's a lot more that I could be doing. I have a responsibility by putting all of these people together. I have the responsibility of making sure that I put the right people together, make sure that they're not scammers. I have the responsibility of making sure that, you know, we find ways for them to work together. And, I say I have this responsibility. I just, I feel like it's part of my job because I already talk to a lot of people in this industry. So why not put everybody together and see how they can all work together? Because I get approached from time to time, and people say, hey, if you know somebody that does this, be on the lookout. And, I finally said, well, why don't I put everybody in the room and let's see if there could be some magic that happens. And it's just been amazing to see that certain projects are finding mentors and advisors. They're finding VCs to work with. They're finding opportunities because maybe they got let go and now they found a new opportunity to be an advisor or for full-time employment. There's been a lot of success stories coming out of the group, and the more I hear about these success stories, the more just makes me want to keep going and keep building and keep scaling and keep creating opportunities for people to engage with each other and to connect. There's so much happening that I'm not even aware of, and that's totally okay. As long as I know that it's working, that's enough for me to keep going. And so it's been amazing. It's been great to see a lot of the support. I've got folks in there from Gala Games, from a lot of the big chains, from Binances of the world and Arbitrums. A lot of these guys and gals are extremely supportive of the group, and they are always open to connecting with projects. So anybody out there that is just building amazing, cool stuff, if you want to be part of if you want to be part of a group that is all about supporting each other and providing value first, I think that you're going to love this group. And we do Twitter Spaces. I do YouTube interviews. I do virtual events, and all of them have different themes in order to help and support people where they need that support. So it's been a great experience. And I believe you and I met in a networking group on Telegram. So this stuff really works.
It does. It does. And Mikhail, I think, you encompass the pure spirit of BD. I don't think I've met a better BD person, right? And I love the fact too that you're, taking responsibility for making sure that you're connecting the right mindset of people, right? Making sure that, there are no scammers. There's nobody with any kind of malicious intent. So I love that you're keeping the group pure, or at least doing the best that you can to do so. That's amazing. Now, you said you had some success stories, hey? Maybe tell us one of your favorite success stories, or a couple that really stick out to you from when you started this group.
Yeah, I guess I'll share the one about the guy that created my website. So I wanted a website for my community, and he made it, and it looked amazing. I've never had a website myself, so he spent a lot of time with me, just going through step by step of what it would look like. First, we create a game plan, then we start working on the design. It was a really good experience. And then once I got done, I was just really excited to share it with the group. And as soon as I posted it, like, he ended up getting like tons of messages from people within the community saying, "Hey, I'm going to need to redo my website. I'm going to need a new website." And recently, he posted a message, and he was just like, "Guys, like, I need more work." Because whenever he works on projects, you do one project and then you're done. So you're constantly looking for more. And so he just put out a message. It was really sincere, and he was just saying, "Guys, I hate to ask, but like, I'm kind of struggling here, and I need some help on this." And it was just really amazing to see the community come together. Even the president of Gala Games, Jason, even he like chimed in and said, "Hey, like, I'll send you a DM." So
Wow.
It was just the support that he got from people that have busy lives, that don't sit in the Telegram group all day, chatting, but they saw that message and they felt the need to respond and support. That was very touching for me. And when I experienced that, to me, I just had this feeling of, okay, I can't stop now. I have to keep going. I have no idea what the future holds. I don't know if I could eventually make a living doing this. I don't care. Right now, I know that I need to continue doing this, because these people that are building in the bear, like, it's just going to be that much more rewarding when they thrive and they blossom, in a year, 2 years from now. So that's what keeps me motivated. And that's why I enjoy what I do.
Talking about building and 1 to 2 years from now. Actually, I'm going to rewind it a little bit before I ask this question, you guys. For everybody listening here, if you have any questions, I'm going to get to the Q&A section part pretty quick here. So if you have any questions you want to ask either me or Mikhail, just drop them in the community sharing chat, and we'll be happy to answer them. as soon as we start wrapping up. Now, back to my question. Talking about building and what the future can hold in 2 to 3 years. Kind of what's your ultimate goal within Network Spotlight, and where do you want to see Network Spotlight in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, Alex, you know how many times I get that question? I I get it quite a bit these days, and
Yeah, that
to be
means it should be
completely,
should be an easy answer, right?
it should be. It should be planned. I should have it memorized by now. But reality is, I don't know, and the reason why I don't know is because I don't know what the needs are going to be. Because ultimately, I can say I wanted to do X, Y, and Z, but I would be lying. I wanted to do what the community wants it to do, if that makes sense. Because up to this point, I've just been really keen on understanding what the needs are from the community. Right now,
Right.
the biggest need is around raising funds. Who knows? Maybe peak bull market, we're talking, hey, I need access to influencers, right? I feel like we're so far removed from that world right now because we're in like the deep freeze. But hey, 2 years from now, that this whole our whole sentiment, it's going to be a lot different. There's going to be the needs are going to be different, so it's ever changing, and I think as long as I'm in tune with what those changes are, and I make the changes not based off of what I want but based off of what the community wants, then ultimately it's going to succeed. So I don't look at myself as, yes, title wise, I'm the founder of this community. That's great. But really, I feel like I'm more of a server to this community.
Gotcha.
So my mentality is a little different in terms of how I approach it and what the future holds. But there have been some people that approached me and said, "Hey, you could make this into a DAO," or hey, this could potentially be something that we may want to invest in. There's like some words being thrown out there, and that's exciting because that's a sign that this is working, and that's ultimately my goal. As long as I keep focusing on that, then everything else will just fall in its place.
Amen, baby. Amen. Now, how the heck can I join the Network Spotlight? How, as a listener, how the heck do I join this amazing community?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the first step is go to networkspotlight.io and apply for a membership. And once you submit the application, I'll reach out. We'll set up some time. We'll connect. We'll learn about what you're working on in the space. Make sure that this group can benefit you. See how you could benefit the community, and yeah, and then you get to join, and we'll find ways to collaborate and work together. That's the exciting part. And I always love learning about what people are building. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a builder, you know, definitely check it out. Networkspotlight.io.
Yeah, and after we're done, I'll let you post any links that you want in the chat for the community to go and look at. Now, how amazing is it, guys? That we got Mikhail doing a vetting process for this community. You can't just walk in here willy nilly. I can see why people want to make it a DAO. That's awesome. I love the vetting process, right? And that goes to that extra step of that accountability of making sure that everybody is here to help each other out and stay away from all that kind of malicious activity and plants. Anyways, you guys, since I don't really see any questions, I'm thinking about wrapping it up here. We're about 10 minutes over, but I don't really care. I had a really nice time with or chatting with you today, Mikhail. So before we end the podcast today, you want to give us any kind of final thoughts?
Yeah, just stay vigilant, stay safe out there. Right now things are kind of boring. Bitcoin is moving sideways. We're in the upper 20s, been stuck here for a while. Things are getting hacked. It's okay. It's all part of the process. We know that there are 4-year cycles. Stay positive, continue to build, continue to stay in this space, because the longer you can endure these times, the better off you'll be when we have those peaks. And don't forget to have fun, and reach out to somebody, uh, tell them how much you appreciate them, and support each other. Most importantly, that's what we need here in Web3. We all need to be able to support each other right now. And there's a lot of really talented people building amazing things, as I mentioned, and that's remarkable for them to be doing that during these times. And now is the time to build those relationships. Because in the bull market, a lot of people, especially the ones that are high value, they're not going to have a time to connect. So connect with them now, continue to build, and let's connect.
Yeah, and
Most importantly, Alex, I want
Mm.
to say big thank you to you for having me on. I love all the conversations we have, whether it be on the other platforms or now on Discord. Always love to connect with you, and yeah, appreciate all that you do, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And talking about connecting with people in the bear market, like Mikhail said, now's the time, you guys. Chances are, if you're building in the bear market, you're probably going to be sticking around. So, with that being said, I'll give you guys a little final thoughts about Footprint, and then we'll wrap it up. So, Footprint, we are your one-stop shop. Data aggregator for offering tons of different marketing solutions, development, research, all these different types of solutions for your data needs, right? And recently, we just did a huge upgrade, you guys. This is sick. We made our REST API free for everyone to use. That's right. Our API is now free. So you can do a ton of different calls through a lot of different endpoints and really kind of harness your charts and harness your dashboards. And if you're building and you have a data problem, guess what? I got a data solution, baby. So hit me up if you're building and you need some data. I'm your man. And with that being said today, thanks for joining again, Mikhail. You the man. Love having you on our conversation or on any sort of conversation. And thank you again for joining our Footprint Data Drive number 17, where we're talking about data and security. Stay tuned for next week when we come in with a different topic. I don't know what it is because I haven't thought of it yet, but it'll be good. Trust me. With that being said, you guys, we'll catch you next week. Bye now.
Take care.